on this one. Okay. Forgot to amend it. Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Our monitors aren't working up here. So, good evening. Welcome to the Lebanon City Council meeting. Today is May 29th, 2018. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on to the roll call of members. Madam Clerk will call the roll.
Councilman Kincaid.
Present.
Councilman Campbell.
Here.
Councilman Coots.
Here.
Councilman Robertson.
Here.
Councilman Copeland.
Here.
Councilman Wheat.
Present.
Councilman Fleming.
Present.
Thank you.
All right. Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Are there any edits, amendments, changes to the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, minutes are approved. All right, is there any old business to come before the council tonight? Okay, move on to new business. First item I have up here is Resolution 2018-20, which is a consideration by the Common Council of the City of Lebanon, Indiana, confirming Resolution 2018-17 and determining that the qualifications of an economic revitalization area have been met. Just for remind everyone, this is the confirmatory resolution for a resolution we passed at the last council meeting declaring an economic revitalization area. So I'll turn this over to our City Attorney, Chris Bloomer, to read the resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is Resolution 2018-20. Again, it's a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Lebanon confirming Resolution 2018-17 and determining that the qualifications for an economic revitalization area have been met. Just to summarize this resolution tonight, whereas pursuant to the Indiana Code, the City of Lebanon, by and through its Common Council, has the right and opportunity to abate the payment of real property taxes for real estate located within an area declared by the Council to be an economic revitalization area, and to also abate the payment of personal property taxes within that same area. Further, whereas the Council adopted its Resolution 2018-17, the declaratory resolution, on May 14, 2018, declaring the same area whose boundaries are located within the corporate boundaries of the city, comprising plus or minus 23 acres, described in this resolution, Exhibit A, also a map is attached as Exhibit B, in which the property owner is making application to the city, pursuant to the act, subsequently approved by this council, may receive real property tax abatement and or personal property tax abatement. The council has caused to be published a notice pursuant to Indiana Code, including the notice that the council would hold a public hearing, which notice was published at least 10 days prior to the date of the public hearing. Further, the council, in accordance with Indiana Code, has caused to be filed a copy of the notice and the declaratory resolution with the Boone County Assessor at least 10 days prior to the date of the public hearing. Whereas at the public hearing held on the date hereof, the council received, heard, and considered any remonstrances and objections from interested persons and heard evidence concerning the qualifications of the area as an economic revitalization area. Kind of go into what we would be approving.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Perfect. Whereas after considering the evidence, the council would desire to take final action determining whether the qualifications for an economic revitalization area have been met, and further to take final action confirming the declaratory resolution. So if approved, the council will resolve and adopt the following as summarized. 1, the area is located within the corporate boundaries of the city. 2, the area is undesirable for or impossible of normal development and occupancy because of a lack of development, cessation of growth, and other factors listed in this resolution. Section 3, Resolution 2018-17, adopted by the Council on May 14, 2018, is hereby confirmed and approved. And finally, Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption.
Okay, as mentioned in the resolution, we will have a public hearing, but I wanted to open this up for council members first. Any questions, concerns from council concerning Resolution 2018-20?
Sure.
Okay, this time I will open the public hearing on Resolution 2018-20. If you have any questions, concerns, please step forward. Your voice will be heard. No sudden movements. Okay, at this point I will close the public hearing concerning Resolution 2018-20. Reflecting the public hearing, any further questions, comments from council?
No, sir.
Okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion concerning Resolution 2018-20.
I move we approve Resolution 2018-20.
We have a motion approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Resolution 2018-20 passed unanimously. Thank you, council. Unfortunately, we're going to have quite a few of those tonight. Okay. Next up is Resolution 2018-21, which is consideration by the Common Council of the City of Lebanon, Indiana, confirming Resolution 2018-19 and determining that the qualifications of an economic revitalization area have been met. Very similar, just hit the highlights on this one.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, this is Resolution 2018-21. Again, whereas pursuant to the Indiana Code, the City of Lebanon, by and through its council, does have the right and opportunity to abate the payment of real and personal property taxes. Whereas this council adopted its Resolution 2018-19, again, the declaratory resolution, on May 14, 2018, declaring the area whose boundaries are located within the corporate boundaries of the city, comprising plus or minus 58 acres, described herein as Exhibit A, also attaches a map Exhibit B of the subject property, as an economic revitalization area. Whereas this council has caused to be published a notice pursuant to the Indiana Code of the adoption of substances of the declaratory resolution, including notice that the council would hold a public hearing. That notice was published at least 10 days prior to the date of the public hearing. Whereas the council, in accordance to Section 2 of the Indiana Code, the applicable act, has caused to be filed a copy of the notice and the declaratory resolution with the Boone County Assessor, again, at least 10 days prior to the date of the public hearing. Whereas the public hearing held on the date hereof, the council received, heard, and considered any remonstrances and objections from interested persons and heard evidence concerning the qualifications of the area as an economic revitalization area. Whereas after considering this evidence, the council desires to take final action, determining whether the qualifications for an economic revitalization area have been met, and further to take final action confirming that declaratory resolution. Thus, if approved, the council would be resolving and adopting the following as summarized. Section 1, the area is located within the corporate boundaries of the city. Section 2, the area is undesirable for or impossible of normal development and occupancy because of a lack of development, cessation of growth, and other factors listed in this resolution. Section 3, Resolution 2018-19, adopted by the council on May 14, 2018, is hereby confirmed and approved. And finally, Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption.
Okay, same process for this resolution. Any questions, comments, concerns from council?
Sure.
Okay, at this time I will open the public hearing on Resolution 2018-21. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, please feel free to share them with us. Nobody? Okay, at this time I will close the public hearing on Resolution 2018-21. Based on what we've heard, any new questions, comments, concerns from council?
Move to approve Resolution 2018-21.
Motion to approve Resolution 2018-21. Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Resolution 2018-21 passes unanimously. Thank you, council. All right. Next item up here is Resolution 2018-23, which is consideration of by the Common Council of the City of Lebanon, Indiana, approving an amendment to the Economic Development Area Plan for the Lebanon Consolidated Economic Development Area. You want to handle this one too, Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So again, this is Resolution 2018-23. Whereas on May 14, 2018, the Lebanon Redevelopment Commission, pursuant to the Indiana Code, adopted Resolution 2018-07, also known as the Declaratory Resolution, approving certain amendments to the previously declared Lebanon Consolidated Economic Development Area and the Economic Development Plan for that same area, otherwise known as the 2018 Plan Supplement. Whereas the Lebanon Plan Commission on May 21, 2018, approved and adopted its order, number 2018-01, determining that the Declaratory Resolution and the 2018 Plan Supplement conform to the Plan of Development for the city, and approving the Declaratory Resolution and the 2018 Plan Supplement. Whereas pursuant to Indiana Code, the Commission has submitted the Declaratory Resolution and the 2018 Plan Supplement to this Council. Now, therefore, it would be resolved, if approved by the Council, that the Council would be resolving and adopting the following in summary. Section 1, pursuant to the Indiana Code, The council hereby determines that the declaratory resolution and the 2018 plan supplement for the Lebanon Consolidated Economic Development Area in all respects conform to the plan of development for the city. Section 2, the council hereby approves in all respects the declaratory resolution, the 2018 plan supplement, and the plan commission order. Finally, Section 3, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage by the council and approval by the mayor as required by law.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. And just to confirm, this does not require public hearing?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from council concerning this resolution?
No, sir.
Okay. Any public comment concerning Resolution 2018-23? Okay. At this time, I would consider a motion on Resolution 2018-23.
I move we approve 2018-23.
We have motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Resolution 2018-23 passes unanimously. Thank you, council. All right. These are a little bit more fun now. Okay. Next item up is Resolution 2018-24. Now I'm going to have Molly Whitehead from the Boone County Economic Development Corporation introduce this project first.
Good evening, Council. Molly Whitehead, Executive Director of the Boone EDC. We have a request before you tonight from Hendricks Commercial Properties. They are a developer out of Wisconsin. They have done quite a bit of work in Indiana previously, but they've been looking at the Lebanon area for quite some time to develop some spec buildings. So I'll give you a brief kind of overview of the lead activity we've seen, why we, the Boone EDC, feels that a spec building would be of benefit to Lebanon and to all of you. And then I'll also turn it over to Dan Barkus, the company representative who's here tonight to introduce Hendricks to Lebanon, say a little bit about the company, the types of companies they work with and are targeting, and how they have given back to communities in which they've been located in the past or where they're currently located. So this request before you tonight is for a tax abatement for a 105,000 square foot spec building. By spec building, it does not have a tenant in mind at the present time. However, something to keep in mind, even if you do choose to abate taxes, that is real property that will be there regardless of whether there is a tenant there or not. Somebody will be paying property taxes, and as such, why the recommendation is what it is, we've structured that so that the city does get a little bit more upfront than it would normally under a traditional 10-year tax model. But lead activity, before we get into that, lead activity, just a quick overview. 2017, we received 141 leads. Year to date, here in 2018, we're at 61. We've received 9 of them in May, of which about 4 or 5 of them have come in the past 3 or 4 days. So we've been a little busy the past week or so compiling those RFPs and getting those submissions in. As you've all hopefully heard me say in the past, our target industries. For Boone County as a whole, we look at manufacturing, we look at IT, and we look at headquarters. For Lebanon in particular, we feel that manufacturing is a really good fit for the type of people who live here, the type of people who commute into this community as well. And within manufacturing, we look at ag, plastics, auto, food, and pharmaceutical industries in particular. It's not to say we won't work with other companies that come knocking on our door or other types of industries. However, where our recommendations will get a little more aggressive is with those target industries. Those were selected very carefully by us with input from our elected officials because it not only points to the supply chain that's already here within Boone County, within Lebanon, but also kind of helps us answer that question, who do we actually want to be? Who are those types of users we want to bring in? We want to bring in those users that pay above average wages. We want to bring in those users that have like a low market entry point or low volatility. Those are our targets. And those industries, those manufacturers in particular, not exclusively, but often they are the ones that are looking at the smaller size spaces. And it's where it can be a little difficult for us to respond to those leads favorably for Lebanon because we often lack the space that we need here. When those leads do come in, though, about 52% of them year to date have requested an already existing building. It's because as we see the economy continue to grow, those companies need to make incredibly fast decisions, and they're first and foremost looking for that existing space where it's kind of plug and play and they can get in there, start making money, and get their product out the door very quickly. The building size requirements, and this is why we like this particular model from Hendricks, is because year to date, and this is comparable with what we've seen in years past, about 46% of the leads year to date have been under 50,000 square feet. And then our next size up that's been requested is 100 to 250,000 square feet. And that's been a little over a quarter of the leads that we've gotten. This building, again, is at 105,000 square feet. The company is willing to consider subdividing that space into much smaller units that would allow us to fit this need that we often see. You don't currently have anything in that 0 to 50,000 square foot range that is easily habitable, let's say. There could be some smaller size spaces that are out there. There could be retail units, but who we're targeting, there's really not that space here in the community. In the 100 to 250,000 square foot range, with one of the Gander Outdoors buildings becoming available, that has opened up some leads for us. It is an existing building. It's an older building. Doesn't mean somebody couldn't go in there, but a newer building is often more appealing because the customer can make it what they want to. And they can get the specs that they need. One example, actually, I couldn't have timed it better. Literally about 4 o'clock this afternoon, we did get a lead that came in the door. It's a food manufacturer. They only will allow us to submit any shell buildings, or if we have previously existing buildings, they have to be food grade capable. I have none in Boone County that would fit that need. They want a single size or a single tenant building. They don't want to share with anybody, and they want it in this square footage range that Hendricks is presenting tonight and with their future requests before you. So this is one that we do plan to submit for, pending approval of incentives that we have reasonable assurances that this building will move forward now that we have something to submit. Finally, where the leads are concerned, just to give you a snapshot of the leads that we've turned down or what we have received, about 43% of them are manufacturing leads. That fluctuates kind of depending on the year, up to maybe 50%. Only 13% of the leads year to date have been logistics. Only 2 of the requests we've gotten year to date have been over 500,000 square feet. So we, as the Boone EDC, don't see as much of that demand as maybe some of those in the developer community may. We see that smaller size space, and we know that that's where that demand is. Who we turned down, though, in 2017, these are the customers that would be breaking ground right about now, starting to open their doors. We turned down numerous auto-related manufacturing companies. These are companies that are probably paying well above average wages for Boone County. We've turned away multiple food-related manufacturers last year, several plastics-related companies, a defense contractor. We even turned down a racing shop of some sort, all because the available space that those companies needed was not here. We either had to submit another county or another community in Boone County, or we simply just had to not respond to that lead at all based on what the company was requesting. So hopefully, and of course happy to answer any questions you may have about that, but hopefully that kind of explains why we see some of the demand out there and why we think that this really fits within what we're looking for. Before we kind of get into kind of the nuts and bolts of the tax abatement, as I mentioned, Dan Barkus from Hendricks is here. I'd like to invite him to come up and speak, just give a very brief overview of the company and what they do and who they're targeting.
You gave yourself a long walk, Dan.
It's okay. You can hold your applause. It's all right. I am Dan Barkus with Hendricks Commercial Properties. I'm a vice president there. And Hendricks Commercial Properties, a quick overview on that, founded back in 1974 by Ken and Diane Hendricks. They were doing multifamily in and around the Beloit market area. As that market changed for them, they expedited out of their multifamily and invested in their first ABC Supply. ABC Supply, I don't know if you're familiar with ABC Supply, but they are the majority shareholder for windows, doors, siding, the market shareholder for that product group across the nation. They sell to wholesalers across the country. But that's just one of the companies that they own, and Ken, now deceased, so Diane owns that company and several others. We are second in line behind ABC. One of her goals for us, for Hendricks Commercial Properties, is to go out and create the best industrial properties to create jobs. She's been pushing this for years and years and years, and we've done a really good job of it in the Beloit market. We have also done a great job in and around the country as we go, and we've been buying existing properties. One of the latest existing properties we purchased was a 2-building set out in over Noblesville called Saxony, just north of the Hamilton Town Center. And it was a big portion of that building was vacant, and we're backfilling it with new leases at this time. For what we're trying to do here with this type of product, we have done a product, pretty much the same building up in Beloit. We were marketing it as where we could split it in 2 to 2 or 3 segments and demise it accordingly. We ended up backfilling it with Toledo Molding and Die. Toledo Molding and Die out of Toledo, Ohio, was following the Fiat Chrysler development up in by Rockford, and they moved their whole operation into the 105,000 square foot building to supply, to do the just-in-time supply to Fiat Chrysler. We have another company that, something similar, different type of product and manufacturing, but that we're pursuing up there as well now. You know, we have a spec building, and looks like we are going to get a deal before that even comes out of the ground. So that's just a couple of examples of how we go about and what our goal has been. What we have seen and what we're seeing from the market right now is to go out and buy existing, number one, there's not a lot of product out there to buy. It's very pricey, and you're not getting the returns on existing product any longer. It makes more sense for us to build. And the product that we build is similar to a lot of other products where our core size is in that 50 to 250,000 square foot size range. But we do a little something different. Our other groups in our Hendricks Commercial Properties, our other development areas are mixed use, multifamily. One of the recent developments that we've done here in Indianapolis is the Ironworks Hotel over at Keystone at the Crossing, if you're familiar with that. And we're also in the middle of Bottle Works, which is downtown Indianapolis. So that's a $250 million endeavor that we're pursuing, and I think the price tag is actually creeping up on us a little bit. But you know, regentrifying the old Coca-Cola Bottle Works facility downtown Indianapolis, it's a very big special deal for us, and it's going to. They're doing hotels, multifamily, retail, movie theater, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But for here in Lebanon, our goal is to create these smaller, large industrial buildings. Can we phrase it that way? That can be demised into smaller spaces that would allow for industrial type operations to come in and utilize that space. Now, we can't limit it to 100% industrial. There may be some smaller logistics guys that look at them too, but what we're building is very nice. We'll have brick facades, not all the way around, but on the corners and where the main doors are. So it's a nice space. And that's pretty much why we do what we do. And do you have any other questions?
Perfect. Any questions for Dan?
I do, actually. Corey Coots, I actually am our EDC representative from the council. Yep. In analyzing a lot of the different things that we see come through Boone County, Obviously, you heard our target markets, and they're a little bit broad in what they're looking at. So I think you're very well addressing the size concern. That's something that we don't have right now. One other area that we have struggled with is actually in the flooring construction. I don't know if Molly has mentioned this to you in the past, but because we have such a diverse group that we're looking at, there are very, very different floor aspects that they look for in these buildings. Are these buildings something that you have either A, planned for, or B, willing to either not pour the floor until we have, someone prospectively coming into these, or anything along those lines?
That's a great question. And when we deal with our industrial clients that are coming in looking at our existing buildings or new buildings, that's always the first thing that they're asking. What type of floor do you have? How thick is it? So we're very accustomed to that. In this case, for a spec building, we would leave the floor out until we know what type of, until we know who's coming in. And the first guy in the door is going to get the choice of the floor. But we have a standard floor spec, which is generally that 6 to 7 inch range. Anything thicker is going to be extra TIs for them. So
Right. So this is not going to have a floor in it until we have a tenant?
that's the plan.
Awesome. I think
That's how we're looking at it anyway.
Yeah.
So
That's a big win for us. I know that's kind of deep in the weeds for somebody that may be listening, but that's a big opportunity area for us out in
Right.
that business park. So that's
so
a good win.
I mentioned Toledo Molding and Die before. That's how we did that deal. And they ended up having, they came in and had, a 12-inch
I was going to say probably 11
slab
plus.
in a lot of areas. So,
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. Thank you very much.
yep.
Yeah, how did you come about choosing Lebanon?
Lebanon. Well, I'm from Indiana and grew up down in Greenwood and worked in the Indianapolis market for many years until I went up to Beloit via Texas. And so I'm familiar with Lebanon and understanding the marketplace. I was assigned to Indianapolis to go and find a place to build some spec buildings.
Okay.
How's that?
I'm just curious on how we got there.
No, and just knowing about the community, I've looked here before and with my past employer, so.
Very cool.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Dan? Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Yep,
it.
Thank you.
Any questions for Molly?
Maybe, can I give the nuts and
Yeah,
bolts of
go
the
ahead.
deal
Yep,
first?
for sure.
What you have before you again tonight is roughly 105,000 square foot spec building. This would go, where we're looking at the property there at the corner of 39 and Enterprise Boulevard. It's total about 18 acres that are available, 16 of which, give or take, are already located within the city of Lebanon. So that's kind of the northern and western end. So this particular building would go what is already within the city. Then later tonight, you're hearing the first resolution or ordinance for the annexation for that 2-acre parcel, kind of roughly that pole barn that's sitting there on the corner, to annex that within the city. And so once that is within the city and pending how tonight goes, then we'll probably be before you again for future abatement request for another potential spec building to go on that part of the parcel. We would have done just 2 at one time, but I believe a tiny little 2-foot portion of the building was sitting not within the city. So again, that's just for this one. We've been working with the group from Hendricks for quite some time now. 6 months, 4 to 6 months. Time flies, I guess. But we've worked a lot with them, tried to take their feedback in on the type of incentive arrangement they would be interested in, but also balancing that out with ensuring that the taxpayers of Lebanon also get a good deal out of this as well. As we've emailed out the recommendation from the Boone EDC, and this is based on just helping Lebanon maintain its competitiveness in the market. You do have neighbors relatively nearby that will provide incentive packages that do compete pretty well with this. And so without having any incentive or this type of incentive in place, it does make it pretty difficult for the numbers to work for the developer and to get this space here. So what we've recommended you consider tonight is a 10-year non-traditional tax abatement. Years 1 through 5 would be at 75% flat. So the key thing to remember is that the user would be paying property taxes in year 1. So under that traditional model, year 1 it's 100% abated, year 2 it's 95% abated. So you would get a little bit more money front end than you would have normally under that traditional model. Year 6 would be at 50%, year 7 and 8 at 25%, years 9 and 10 at 10%. We would estimate, and this is just based on an assumed AV of $3 million, could come in a little above or hopefully above that. And again, that's just based on the real property alone, but we're assuming or estimating that that would save the company around $330,000 and would bring in roughly $336,000 to the city of Lebanon. Of course, as we have users that come forth, that's potential personal property revenue, that's local income tax revenue as well, that obviously at this point in time we can't even put into the calculations. And I think the only other final point here for you all to remember, this resolution is contingent upon Hendricks closing on the purchase of the land. This abatement would be for Hendricks for this type of property, and so they're actively working on closing here in the next several weeks, but again, wanted to note that contingency. Questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Molly. Appreciate that. I want to have Chris read the resolution, and then we'll have public comment as well, too. So go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, this is Resolution 2018-24. And whereas pursuant to the Indiana Code, the City of Lebanon, by and through its Common Council, has the right and opportunity to abate the payment of real property taxes for real estate located within an area declared by the Council to be an economic revitalization area, and also abate the payment of personal property taxes within that same area. Whereas the Council adopted its Resolution 2018-14 on April 23, 2018, declaring the area whose boundaries are located within the corporate boundaries of the city, comprising plus or minus around 16 acres, described in Exhibit A, also attached as Exhibit B as a map here to this resolution, in which property owners making application to the city, pursuant to the Indiana Code, subsequently approved by this council, may receive real property tax abatement and or personal property tax abatement pursuant to the applicable procedures of the Indiana Code. Whereas the council, after following all applicable procedures of the Indiana Code, took final action, again adopting Resolution 2018-15, on May 14, 2018, confirming the declaratory resolution, thereby establishing an economic revitalization area. Whereas Hendricks Commercial Properties, here the applicant has filed with this council a statement of benefits, real estate improvements, otherwise known as a Form SB1, and which is attached to this resolution as Exhibit B, describing the proposed project to be installed by the applicant in order to receive those real property tax abatements for the project. And whereas the project includes the new construction of approximately a 105,000 square foot industrial facility to be constructed, whereas this council has reviewed the Form SB1, and the improvement of the area will be of a public utility and will be to the benefit and welfare of the citizens and taxpayers of the city. Thus, if approved, the council would resolve and adopt various items. I will try to summarize these the best of my ability. Section 1, the proposed project will be located in the area which has been confirmed as an economic revitalization area. Section 2, in order for the applicant to receive real property tax abatement, the applicant shall acquire ownership interest in the area from Lebanon Properties, LLC. Section 3, there are various benefits the city acknowledges, including, among many others, the estimate of hiring approximately 50 new individuals. That can be reasonably expected to result from this proposed project. Various project salaries will be incurred from the project as well, and the totality of the benefits is sufficient to justify the granting of real property tax abatement to the applicant through the deduction provided by the Indiana Code. The total deductions have been noted and are also noted here in the resolutions, the percentages per year. Pursuant to the Act, the Council shall cause to be filed a certified copy of this resolution with the Boone County Auditor. And finally, Section 6, this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its adoption.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Any further comments, questions from council?
No, sir.
Go ahead, Dick.
Copy I got in section 4 has 10 years. Shouldn't it be just 10 years?
It's year 1 through 5 at 75, year 6.
I got that. The statement, period of real property tax deductions. It says mine says shall be 5 years, and it's got 10 years.
So we've
Should be 10 years instead of 5.
So it should be
Right?
10, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can, you want to make a motion to amend
I
the
want to make a
resolution?
motion, we just amend that, change that 5 to 10, please.
Okay, we'll do. We have a motion to amend in a second. All those in favor of amending, again, this is not on the passages, to amend Resolution 2018-24 to reflect the change in Section 4. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Has been amended now.
Eagle eye.
Any, good catch, Dick. Any other questions, comments? Is there any public comment concerning Resolution 2018-24? Okay. At this time, I would take a motion concerning Resolution 2018-24.
I
Make a
move
motion, we approve resolution 2018-24.
as amended.
We have a motion.
Amended.
We have a motion approved, Resolution 2018-24 as amended. Is there a second? Second. Motion as second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Motion, Resolution 2018-24 passed unanimously. Thank you, council, and thank you, Hendricks. Look forward
Thanks,
to future partnership with you. Okay. That's all I have for resolutions. So now we'll move on to ordinances. First item I have up here for on ordinances is 2018-07, which is the Lebanon Gateway Marketplace Plan Unit Development, first reading. Ben Bontrager, will you introduce this for us?
Good evening, council members. I'll walk through some of the highlights of this. This is a fairly complex project with a lot of moving parts that we're still working on, but this is the first step in the planning approval. This is a plan unit development process similar to the residential developments we saw earlier this year, which allows them, the PUD process allows them essentially to write their standards, and we felt as we were looking through this that this was the best way to approach this project. It's a unique development for Lebanon, certainly in the recent history. This comes to you from the Plan Commission with a positive recommendation, 9-0 vote, and I will walk through some of the details of the project. Let me pull up. Put this on the Elmo. The site is the 24 acres. It's at the southeast corner of Interstate 65, which you see here on the map, and State Road 32, which is at the north of the property. This is currently owned by Mr. Daniels. There's 2 old industrial buildings that sit on there that are currently just being used for storage. The proposal here by Kenmar LLC is to demolish those buildings and create a retail development that you see represented here, as best we can see it anyway. Components of it, there is a significant medical office building that's proposed in the southern part of the property. They have a site that's being marketed for a hotel development, and then a series of 5 outlots along State Road 32 that include the possibilities for family sit-down restaurants, fast food, banks, etc. But we definitely talked to them about creating sites that are large enough to accommodate family sit-down restaurants. So whereas fast foods usually are on 1 to maybe 1.5 acre at the largest, family sit-down is looking for closer to 2 acres. So you see a handful of sites both here on the western and on the eastern end that are closer to 2 acres. They're definitely a size to accommodate sit-down restaurants. Other major components that you see here, currently Ransdell Road, as you know, runs directly north and south on the eastern end of this property. And then we have Ping Avenue here to the north, so we kind of have an offset intersection. We knew NDOT wasn't going to like that, so when we approached them, we discussed that we would create a realignment of Ransdell Road that would actually end up being called Ping Avenue, which you see represented here, to create an intersection on State Road 32 with Ping, thus creating this development site here and other developments. Ransdell Road would remain, and right now it's being proposed as right in, right out to maintain access to those existing businesses on Ransdell Road, but the primary access point would become this realigned road with Ping. When we approached NDOT about this discussion, and what they had, what requirements they may have. First, they required a pretty significant traffic impact study that was completed by the developer, and that justified a signalized intersection at this. So NDOT is recommending a signalized intersection at this new intersection. And the other requirement that they also insisted upon was extending the median down State Road 32 from its existing endpoint to the east all the way to the intersection.
And let's go for a ride.
As part of this additional development here, for that to be extended down to essentially require anybody who's wanting to turn left to go to the signalized intersection at Payne to get to the north, as well as to the south, clearly. Other details, I could walk through the specific standards. Essentially what they did is they went through their planned business commercial requirements, and where they were going to vary from those development standards, they provided those in the ordinance that you have in front of you. Looking at minimum lot areas and widths, setbacks. The main component, though, that I would point out as far as where the standards, where they varied from some extent, were the landscape standards, and they create something that I think is going to be much more efficient for this development. They essentially combine some of our standards so that we don't end up in a situation where they're providing 2 rows of landscaping across a road frontage. Some of our other projects that are in thoroughfares, it requires both the buffer yard along the road frontage as well as parking lot landscaping. Good example is the gas station on the north end of town that just opened late last year. They've got extensive landscaping to try to meet our requirements. So what we worked with them on here was a way to combine the requirements into something to be much more efficient. So the landscape standards, essentially, they provide buffers along all of the road frontages of 10 feet with planting required. And where there is a parking lot and a buffer both required, they only have to do the buffer yard requirement. So this is going to create a much more efficient site design than what our standards would require on a typical thoroughfare. Signage, they also, we worked with them. There would be a monument sign along State Road 32 that would be multi-tenant, and there would be no other ground signs permitted. That is something that varies from our current standards. They would be permitted a monument sign and individual ground signs for each of the lots, and we wanted to combine those into just the larger monument sign. In terms of other site design, we worked with them to make sure that that new Ping Avenue realignment was something that would accommodate future traffic. So it does have it has 2 lanes of traffic plus the center left turn lane along that entire frontage. It does have sidewalks on both sides of the road for pedestrian access to the site. The east-west road through the site is currently proposed as a private road and within an access easement. It does still meet our standards as far as pavement width, but it did provide them some additional flexibility to include that as an access easement, which, as there was questions asked, that does require them to maintain that road because it is still maintained in private. So that would be, they would do all the snow removal, clean the sidewalks, et cetera, because that is still their road. In terms of process, this is before you tonight for the first reading of the ordinance, and then would come back to you in 2 weeks for the second reading and adoption. We are still working with them, and actually the ordinance that you approved earlier, the 2018-23 to revise the economic development area, also is related to this project. We essentially are carving out a specific TIF district for this project out of our larger TIF district so that we can use the increment generated by the project to subsidize the public infrastructure that's going to be required, because it's fairly significant to serve this site with public infrastructure. The additional unique component of this is that there's about $750,000 worth of demolition that's going to have to be done with those 2 existing buildings there. So that's a typical greenfield site. You don't have that kind of initial expense. So we are working with them to come up with some sort of financial agreement that involves TIF. So all the taxes generated by this project would be used to provide the public utilities. So that's still a component that we're working through. So this is just the planning tonight, and we'll be back before you on that component. But that's kind of the high level of the project. I do know that they are interested in starting to move dirt as soon as they can get all the planning approvals done. So we would likely see probably the demo starting within the next 2 to 3 months. And they expect to have the first sites ready for the developers by this fall. So we'll see buildings going up by this fall, early next year. I do know they have 1 site under contract, and they have several others that are very close.
Okay. That was a lot of information there, but any questions for Ben?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm still a little bit unclear on the Ping Avenue intersection. Reading the document, are they saying the raised median divider goes all the way to the intersection or past the intersection?
It would go to the intersection.
To the intersection. So
Yes.
if you're turning out of Ping Avenue, you can go west
Correct.
at a signal. Okay.
Correct.
So who's on the hook for all that demolition and construction on the state road?
On the state road, it'll be part of the project.
Okay. So we're
So-
paying for that?
Well, right now, the developer they've actually already got the road, the design done for that. So
Okay.
it's on the developer right now.
Okay.
Like I said, there's a TIF agreement we're still working on with them to help offset some of those costs.
Right, I know, just when you're
But
dealing
right
with
now,
the
that's-
state, it gets a
but
little
yeah,
complicated.
The state's basically said, here's what you have to do.
Right.
So do we have to pay for the lights? The stuff like that?
Right now, it's a private development, so we're working on a TIF deal to try to offset some of those costs, but right now, it's a cost that's borne by the developer.
Okay, what's the estimated cost of the road, Ping Avenue?
The public costs, I don't have the full breakdown, but the total public costs are somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million. And that includes road construction, utility extensions, drainage, the improvements necessary to 32.
What's the estimated tax benefit from all of it?
We have estimated, based on some proposed uses, again, this could completely change if the uses are different, but somewhere in the neighborhood of between $250,000 and $300,000 a year in tax increment.
So what would that be in AV?
Assessed value, it's close, I want to say it's about 18 million in assessed value.
So the TIF district isn't going to be the entire project, the entire space, is it? Or will it be?
Yes, it will be.
The TIF district would encapsulate all 24 acres of this project. Yeah.
It'd be a sub-allocation area, right? So it's not actually, it's like a separate area within the TIF district, separate from the business park. So this would be its own.
Yeah, this is
area.
already in our TIF districts. We're basically carving it out to its own special district. So all the increment generated that project would be reinvested in the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions for Ben?
Ben, looking at section 4 here, permitted uses, is that just a broad term? I mean, you got hotel, apparel shop, flower shop, ice cream shop. I mean, where do these come from?
These actually came out of our UDO. So they had essentially just put on their hotel, retail, but the problem is we don't define retail in our UDO. We have a section that's called retail that included some uses that I didn't want to see here. So rather than just allowing retail, we looked at the list of retail uses and then picked out specific ones.
How about office? That's pretty general.
Yeah, our definition there is a little bit clearer versus there is a specific definition for office, whereas retail was a category. So office is pretty well defined, whereas retail was more broad.
Okay. And just one more question. This is
Yes,
just
sir.
kind of off the cuff completely. What is type B buffer plantings?
That's specified in our ordinance. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, type B, I think is, I want to say it's like five trees and 10 shrubs for every 100 linear feet.
Yeah, just
But
checking.
It's specified in our ordinance what type A and type B mean.
Just curious. I saw that. And I was like,
Yep.
Someone turned Dan's mic off.
hey,
Councilman Fleming, are there any permitted uses you feel should be added to this or
Added
missing?
or removed, either
Added
way.
or removed?
I would like to read through the ordinance, and I will let you know before the second reading.
Okay.
Ben, does this go to maybe a larger discussion about the UDO again? I know it was reworked not too awful long ago. Obviously, it would be separate from this discussion tonight. But are we at a point in growth that our UDO needs an overhaul?
Yes, just a quick answer to the question, and I would anticipate that after we get 75% of the way through our comprehensive planning process this year, that we'll start looking to see where we might need to make some adjustments in the UDO. But yeah, I've already marked 30 different places in my hard copy where I want to make some adjustments to it. But yeah, when you start looking at some of the things that we rewrote for their PUD, there are certain things that I think that's the way it should have been in the UDO in the first place. So yeah, that's definitely something we'll be taking a look at later this year.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions related to ordinance 2018-07?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm going to let Chris read it, and then we'll have a public comment as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this
Again,
is...
you don't have to read everything, so just,
Perfect, thank you. Again, ordinance 2018-07, whereas the Common Council of the City has adopted ordinance number 07-16 as the City of Lebanon Unified Development Ordinance, or the UDO, whereas the City Plan Commission considered a petition that was docket 18-14, filed with the Commission requesting an amendment to the UDO and to the zoning map with regard to the subject real estate. Whereas the Commission forwarded that docket 18-14 after a public hearing held on May 21st, 2018 to this Council with its favorable recommendation by a vote of 9-0. And whereas the Secretary of the Commission certified that action to the Commission, from the Commission to the Common Council on May 22nd, 2018. And as been mentioned, if approved, this Council will be amending the UDO and zoning map in various respects as described fully in this ordinance, including permitted uses, development standards, and other items.
okay, thank you, Chris. All right, any final comments from council?
No, sir.
Any public comment concerning ordinance 2018-07? Okay, you guys are a lively group tonight. All right, ordinance 2018-07 has been read on first reading. We will take that up at our next council meeting on June 11th, I believe is the date, on June 11th. Okay, next item up here is ordinance 2018-08, which is the Hendricks Enterprise State Road 39, Lebanon, Indiana voluntary annexation on first reading. I'll have this one Ben as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, this is related to the project that Molly talked about a little bit earlier this evening. She mentioned that there was a piece of their property that we discovered had not been annexed to the city. And so this is the process we're going through now to go ahead and get that annexed so they can build a couple of buildings there that Molly talked about. Just real quickly, I'll kind of show you what we're looking at here. So this is the property that they're developing, as you see here. And that area, and I guess you can't kind of tell, it looks yellow or tan on here. There's about 2 acres there that we discovered was not in city limits, so we're getting that annexed so they can build these properties. This comes to you from the Plan Commission with a recommendation for the PBI zoning district, which is what the remainder of the property is also zoned. So this is a first reading of the annexation for this property to allow Hendricks to develop.
Okay.
That's city-owned property now?
It is not. It's privately owned.
And just to clarify too, this is a voluntary annexation, so this is the property owner asking us to bring them into the city. This is not the city annexing.
Yes, the current property owner, the Lebanon Properties LLC, submitted the petition on behalf of Hendricks, and so that's what started the process.
Okay. Any questions for Ben?
No, sir.
Okay. Chris, you want to go and read 2018-08?
Absolutely, thank you, Mayor. And this is 2018-08. And whereas the City of Lebanon has the authority and desires to annex lands into the municipality, whereas 100% of the owners of the parcels proposed for annexation have filed a voluntary petition with the council pursuant to the Indiana Code, whereas the City of Lebanon Advisory Plan Commission did hold a public hearing at their scheduled meeting on May 21st, 2018. They forwarded docket 18-20 to this council with a favorable recommendation of 9-0 to assign the PBI zoning classification to the annexation area. Whereas this council has conducted a public hearing actually this evening as required by law. Council has adopted a fiscal plan for the annexation. Annexation area meets the contiguity requirements of the Indiana Code, whereas the council now finds the statutory criteria for annexation have been met. Now, if approved, the council would find certain things fully described here in this ordinance. I'll kind of try to briefly summarize them here. Number one, the annexation area is generally located on Enterprise Boulevard, State Road 39, adjacent to existing corporate limits. Number two, the annexation area is to further include the contiguous public highways and rights-of-way of the public highways which are adjacent to the annexation area per Indiana Code. Section 3, the area is would hereby be assigned to Council District 2. Section 4, the annexation areas would hereby be assigned PBI zoning classification. And finally, Section 5, the ordinance would be in full force and effect upon its passage by the council and upon the passage of the applicable 30-day waiting period as provided by the state laws of the state of Indiana.
Thank you, Chris. Sorry, a lot of work for you tonight. Chris mentioned in the ordinance, we will hold a public hearing on this. So at this time, I would open the public hearing on ordinance 2018-08. If you have any public comment, please step forward and be heard. Nothing again. Okay, at this time, we'll close the public hearing on 2018-08. Any final thoughts, comments on council before we move this off of first reading?
No, sir.
Okay. Ordinance 2018-08 has been read on first reading. Dare I ask if there's any new business before council?
No, not new business. I have an announcement when we're done.
Okay, we'll do announcement. Okay, this time we'll do announcements then, if you have any announcements, Dan.
Right. I want to invite everybody out on this Friday to come out at 10 a.m., get a hoagie from the Lions Club on the north side of the courthouse. So doing it for over 50 years now, so we appreciate having everybody out and come out and support a group that really contributes back to the community. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Any other announcements from council?
Nope.
Okay, would move on to claims and entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we pay the claims.
We have a motion to pay the claims. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, claims have been approved. And would now entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn. And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thanks for watching.
You're welcome.
You what?